Hello everyone, welcome back to the Overwatch channel on YouTube. Today I'm going to talk to you about, I'm going to show you how something I like to call biological firmware gets in the way of people being able to see the truth even when it's right in front of them. And let me start off by saying, some of us out here in the world want to know, we have a few questions. We want to know why we're here. We want to know what the truth of our existence is. We want to know the answers. And some of us have done research into this because some people just aren't happy with being given these answers that when you think about them, in the back of your mind, they kind of like, there's questions. That doesn't make sense. I don't understand. Some of us do research. And what you find out if you do enough research is that all the official stories, the menu of items that you can pick from, that are the official mainstream versions of reality, whether it's from some religion or from materialistic science, eventually you figure out that you have a menu of bullshit to pick from. None of this stuff makes any sense when you look at it in light of all the evidence and information available. And let's face it, you live in a world, in the age of information. You have the world at your fingertips, literally. But people don't want to do the research. On my channel, I did a video a while back, and now when I first started doing my channel here, I was still heavily... let me explain this idea I have biological firmware first. Okay, so like I said, people can look at facts and evidence. They can look at the truth that's right in front of them and still not see it. Perhaps a classic example of this would be the fake artist from, I think, the 1930s. He went by the name of Pavel Giordano, which I think was his name. Let me see if I can find him. Paul Jordan Smith. This is a classic example of what I'm talking about. Here's a guy, I think he was a writer, a reporter, and his wife, she was like an amateur artist, and her artwork he thought was unfairly criticized. So he created a fake artist, Pavel Jordanovich. And he created some news stories about how fantastic this artist was and how his artwork, basically he created hype about this, and then he created the most ridiculous, ugly artwork. I can relate to this guy because once I was in a museum and I looked at a painting in the modern art section, and it was literally a black canvas with a white dot on it. That's literally what it was. I looked at it and I said, this is fucking bullshit. But this guy here, what he did was he created this awful, god-awful, ugly artwork. And the critics that would criticize his wife's art, they bought the hype. So when they looked at his awful artwork that he painted, they said, "Oh, it's fantastic, it's marvelous." And then later, after he had proved this point that these art people don't know what they're talking about, he comes out and tells everybody what he did to show them that you guys, what do you guys really know? And then confronted with this fact, these people now said, well, they adjusted their thinking to say, well, you just happen to actually be a great artist. You just didn't even know it. See, they couldn't accept the fact that they had been fooled or lied to. So they actually then tried to say that his artwork was good. Now, this is an example that anybody can see because you're not attached to it in any way. There's no core belief that you have that you're defending, and you kind of can laugh at that. I did a video a while ago, and I was still under the indoctrination in my firmware. Firmware, what I mean by firmware is this. If you have a model of reality that's even coming close to being correct, then you at least have accepted the fact that consciousness is not produced by the brain. If you haven't realized that yet, then you probably won't get what I'm saying. But think of consciousness as a cloud-based software that is always there. So the hardware, your body and brain, can die, but your software is still there. Now, people, after researching countless near-death experience accounts, I began to see a common thread through a lot of them, and how people feel when they're finally free of their hardware. When they're finally free of their body, they start to, awaken. They start to, they have a sensation of extreme freedom and being extremely unencumbered, and their senses go far beyond the 5 physical senses. Perception of visual perceptions are much more powerful than they are through the eyes, and so forth. So the body, some scientists that study consciousness, they put a benevolent spin on this, but I don't see it as benevolent anymore. So the body has what scientists like Bruce Grayson or Rupert Sheldrake will say, that the brain seems to be a reducing valve for consciousness. But I would say no, it's not a reducing valve. The body and brain are hardware that is designed to cripple consciousness. They don't reduce it, they cripple it. And they seem to do that intentionally. We are severely crippled because of our body-brain connection to our consciousness. Now, if the software is your consciousness or your energy being, whatever it is, the thing that you truly are apart from the hardware, which cannot be destroyed because it's not produced by the hardware. It's just like jacked into the body-brain. Then when the body and brain intermingle with your consciousness, the brain is more like a hardware with firmware. And it's designed, in some cases, it seems absolutely designed to keep you from seeing things a certain way when it comes to certain subject matters. So when you're dealing with religion, politics, social, society type issues, you no longer have the ability to reason and use logic the same way you do anywhere else in life. If people were to think like this when they were crossing the street, you'd have a whole bunch of run over people all over the world dead. I mean, people don't do this anywhere else in life. But when it comes to certain things, politics, religion, we are crippled by something in our brain, I think, a firmware designed to not let us see reality in these matters. So in life, you have all these bullshit explanations for things that you can choose from, whatever makes you feel good. If it's a certain type of religion, if it's materialism, whatever. They got an assortment of menu, and they're all lies. You see, when you're coming in, when you're dealing with things like evolution or creationism, they are two things that prop each other up. The creationists attack the evolutionists attack the creationists, and it goes back and forth. But if you were to just take on one or the other without trying to defend the opposite view, if you're just looking at evolution to see, hey, what do you guys know, and why do you know it, and where does it come from? Or if you did the same thing with creationism, you would end up saying, hey, wait a minute, just like I did, you guys are both wrong. This is bullshit on both ends. So a while ago, now I admit this video has error in it. It's got 35,000 views. It's probably my more popular video, and I'm really sorry I made it when I made it, because I would have made it completely different today. Because I was still dealing with the indoctrination of the indoctrination of my Christianity that I grew up with, Roman Catholic, and Christian, and I was being pulled into kind of like the Christian truther movement when I first started doing this research. And until I worked my way all through dealing with the Bible and everything, and I'll get to all that in a minute, but I just wanted to show you here. Despite what I say in this video that may be off the mark, I sourced all these links in the bottom of the video, and yet this video gets trolled by people who just say, "This is fucking retarded. You don't know what you're talking about." And nobody goes down here to look at this. This is stuff that I sourced. Now, for example, where did I get the title of the video from? I didn't actually make up that title. Lawrence Krauss is a famous cosmologist, astrophysicist. He's a scientist that studies the universe, and he is an atheist and a materialist, a reductive materialist. And so here's the background story of this, just to show you how people cannot deal with facts and evidence, and what is the real story behind this video. Okay, so over the last 20, 30 years, there's been a lot of research into cosmology to try to explain the origins of, understand the universe better. In order to do that, scientists set up a satellite. I'm not sure which one was first. There were a series of satellites, 3 satellites. WMAP, COBE, and Planck was the last one. WMAP and COBE, one of those 2 was first. They're pretty much identical. So the satellite goes up into space, and it literally is designed to look at the universe, study the cosmic background radiation, and just look as far as it can see and scan everything, billions of light years, and just taking all this data and then map everything out and then return the data to Earth. And of course, there's certain prerequisites that materialists have for the universe. The Big Bang Theory, the randomness of it, we're in no special location in space, blah, 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 blah. Now, this isn't about any kind of religion thing here. I'm not getting into that because I think they're just as fucked up wrong as everybody else. But let me just deal with the science end here, and then I'll take on a religious thing after this to make this video balanced about how people cannot deal with facts and evidence because of this firmware that gets in your way. So the data they get back from the satellite is mind-blowing to the scientists because, you see, it shows that not only everything they thought they knew was wrong. Now, as with good science, okay, the reason that they found that everything was wrong was because the satellite's data showed that the cosmic background radiation is not random, and they actually saw these, for lack of a better word, and what the scientists call them axis lines that go through the ecliptic of the Earth that actually put a giant X through where the Earth's ecliptic is, the plane. So this this visible marcation lines, axis lines that are made up of between cold and hot regions of the cosmic background radiation should not be there. And the Big Bang Theory should just be a random expansion of the universe from an explosion, right? That's what they believe. So this showed that data was incorrect. That theory was incorrect. So like good scientists, they actually sent up another satellite. Like I said, WMAP and COBE were the 2 satellites, the first 2. They were almost identical. So let's just, I don't know which one was first, but let's just say WMAP was first, COBE was second. Goes up, spends years in space, returns data, they analyze the data, they get the same result. These scientists are freaking out, so they spend even more money and now re-engineer an entirely new satellite with all new technology and a new different flight path called Planck. Satellite Planck is the last one that goes into orbit. Does its thing, studies the universe for years, returns all the data, confirms the COBE and WMAP data. So what they have is literally their whole model of reality blown up in their faces. Now, this, I don't even think Planck, I'm not sure if Planck went up when this article was written, but this is an article, and it's a talk with Lawrence Krauss. And And this is where I got the title for the video from. In a weird way, correlated with the plane of the Earth around the Sun, is this Copernicus coming back to haunt us? That's crazy. We're looking out at the whole universe. There's no way there should be a correlation of structure with our motion of the Earth around the Sun, the plane of the Earth around the Sun, the ecliptic. That would say we are truly the center of the universe. That's his quote. That's Lawrence Krauss, atheist, materialistic scientist who can't deal with the data. Now, I'm not sure. I think he kind of misspoke there, looking more at this. I don't think the data actually says we're at the center of anything, but it says that we're definitely in a specially marked location. For some reason, there's these axis lines that have been formed and they cross through the Earth's plane. So definitely something there. Definitely something that scientists, if they were actually still scientists, would now scrap the whole Big Bang Theory. They would stop teaching it because it's just been proven wrong. It's been proven wrong for decades. And they would go back to the drawing board and start fresh and trying to figure out what's really going on. But instead, they don't do that. Why don't they do that? Because it violates their model of reality. And because it violates their model of reality, and they have this cognitive firmware from their brain, I think. You could call it ego. That's one word for it. Whatever it is, it gets in Lawrence Krauss's way of processing this information along with a whole bunch of other scientists. Now, you haven't really heard about this, have you? Because it's really just been buried. The data, they don't even like to talk about it. It's just that's that bad. So they just kind of blow it off. With the near-death thing, I was reading this paper, Consciousness Beyond the Body, Evidence and Reflections, and I come across this really strange case in here. Oops. Let me see. This is a nurse from New Jersey, Norma Bowie, who apparently is she's a doctor now, I think, and she also teaches at King College. So she's a professor. She is also found in this documentary here, Beyond the Light. And in this short documentary, she's interviewed. So apparently she's in the ER with a patient that had a cardiac arrest or something, and the patient dies. The patient is OCD. Now, what I found is studying these NDE cases. After you're out of your body and your body's shut down during a death experience, you still are kind of confused. You're in this confused state at first, but you're in a very relaxed state. But confused as, what is that? Oh, that's my body. Oh, I don't need that anymore. People tend to look at their body as like a garment they just got rid of that they don't want. And then I think you start to get yourself together, and then boom, you're interrupted pretty quickly. Within a few minutes of you start to get confronted with dead relatives, loved ones, friends, maybe your pets, some kind of spiritual being, godlike being, angelic being will show up and start you on your tour, or instruct you to go back to your body, or negotiate with you. But you're not really allowed much time to think on your own, which I think is very suspect. But we'll get into that later. So in this video, this woman, like I said, you kind of still retain some of your ego, some of your firmware's damage that's constantly doing. It's crippling your consciousness with you right after you come out of your body. So she's OCD in life. So when she comes out of her body, she still has some of that with her. She's on top of the ceiling looking down at her body, and there's a 12-digit number. And her OCD, she was obsessed with reading numbers and memorizing them. There's a 12-digit number on top of a respirator machine or something that's like 7 feet in the air. And you can only see this number from top of the machine from over 7 feet in the ceiling. So you can't, there's no way for her to have seen this number. So she actually memorizes the number, and then when she was resuscitated, she tells Norma Bowie here, Dr. Bowie, about the number. The doctor calls the maintenance man in, who, and she is not a believer. She's kind of like a agnostic, atheistic type Bowie. She calls in a maintenance guy, gets a ladder, goes on top of the machine, reads the 12-digit number, and sure enough, it matches what the woman told her. This is yet another example of what I call direct evidence, because you have witness evidence of out-of-body, veridical out-of-body from near-death experience, and circumstantial evidence. So you have eyewitness. Something I don't like these people using. They constantly use the term anecdotal evidence with this stuff. It's not anecdotal. If you witness something, it is considered direct evidence. And if you have somebody there that can corroborate what you witnessed, that makes it even stronger. And at weakest point, maybe you could say this is circumstantial evidence to you, because you haven't been able to question these people yourself. But it's outside that, to them, this is direct evidence. So you have, I'll link to all this stuff in the video, but you can watch her documentary here. And you have now a case for veridical out of body. Yet another case. There's so many of these. And yet materialists refuse to accept these things. You have so this cognitive firmware. Let me get into the religion aspect of how this works. In Christianity, let me talk to you about Christianity for a minute. I'm sorry if you don't like my presentation style. I'm kind of like all over the place, but I have a problem. I have to apologize. To tell people things in a linear way for me is very difficult. I think in omnidirectional, multidimensional ways, I guess you could say, is the best way to describe it. So I process information from many different sides at once, and it makes it very difficult for me to speak in a linear way. So I kind of bounce around sometimes when I'm talking, and I'm sorry about that. But I'm trying to get across things that I've learned, so share them with you, so maybe it can help you in your awakening, if you're awakening to all this stuff and researching it. But if you're a Christian, you have certain core beliefs. Now, where's all the core of Christianity from today come from? Now, I was kind of shocked when I started to piece together the fact that no matter what version of Christianity you have today, no matter what version, at its core is 324 AD, the Roman Empire's takeover of the Christian religion. This is something that really never gets addressed. That Christianity, whatever it was before 324, before 324 seemed to be more of an open source type of religion that was leaderless, and it was also if big religions would be like Microsoft and Apple, then the original Christianity was more like Linux, if that makes sense to anybody. And these open source religions of Christianity in the early days, it also included Gnosticism. Now, I think people misunderstand what that really means, because I think what it shows is that when you want to really know the truth, you have to have a personal journey of knowledge and discovery, which is something that I realized has happened to me as I researched all this stuff for myself, and I'm able to get my firmware, my biological firmware that always wants to tell me how to think about something, out of my way so I can see this stuff more clearly. But so you have in 324 AD, circa 324 AD, the Roman Empire basically adopts Christianity as its state religion. Now, all these different sects of Christianity, all the denominations that have broken away from the Roman Catholic Church, which is really the Roman Imperial Universal Church of Christianity, all these different versions still just branched off from whatever doctrines and dogmas and the Bible, which also came from and has its stamp of approval, the Roman Empire, really, right? So these 66 books today, which were really like 80 books when they first put this thing together, because they had these extra books that they took out now. So from there, people have their core Christian beliefs. Think that in America, a land where Christians tend to be more of conservative types, where they want smaller government, and they don't realize that their religion is really created by big imperial government, and it was tainted by that government, but they don't seem to realize that. So, but they have certain core, very core beliefs. And, you know, things like God is holy, God is just or righteous, God is love, God is true. These are very important to remember. As far as the Bible's being the inerrant word of God, the Bible is inspired or God-breathed word of God. Now, these passages here, 2 Timothy 3:16 and 2 Peter 1:1, do not really speak about the Bible book that you're holding. They're talking about scriptures, and they never identify which scriptures they're talking about. And the New Testament wasn't even assembled yet, didn't even exist. So very interesting that they get this kind of interpretation comes up a lot. But God is holy, just and righteous, love and true. Okay, and don't forget, this God is supposed to be the same God that becomes Jesus. Okay, now if you keep that in mind, I'm just going to pull one case, and there's many to choose from, but one case, and I'm just going to call this guy J, because I have a problem pronouncing this name, but we'll call J, the Gileadite, and he has a problem with these Ammonites. They're enemies of Israel, and they're going to go to war, and he wants to win the battle. So he goes to Yahweh or God, and he makes him a deal that he will sacrifice as a burnt offering first person that comes out of his house if he returns from a victorious battle. He goes off and slaughters all the Ammonites, whatever they are, and comes home, and the first person that comes out of his door, now keep in mind this is an agreement with the God of love, God of righteousness, God of truth, the God that's supposed to have become Jesus, the God that can't change and is the same as Jesus. First person that comes out of his door, the front door, is his only daughter, and she's still a virgin. And he agrees to give her 2 months leave to lament her virginity, and then she comes back, and then he completes his vow. Who did with her according to his vow that he made. She never knew a man. And then they have a notation here that in Israel at the same time every year they would have like a holiday for this girl that was sacrificed. So here you have human sacrifice of this deal is sick, folks. It's sick. You can't possibly, just like Lawrence Krauss shouldn't be able to maintain the materialistic model of the universe, and it's just like deniers of veridical OBE data shouldn't deny all the circumstantial and direct evidence they have about OBE data. You shouldn't be able to somehow squeeze holy, just, righteous, love, and true with this fucking deal. But yet, somehow, nobody talks about this. Or the part of the Bible where God says he creates evil. What's that, in Isaiah? I forget which part that is. I should know because I read this book 4 times now, but it's so much to take in, and process. And it took me years to work through all this. So, anyway, there's something that blocks us from understanding truth and facts in certain matters. And if it's religions involved in anything else, it gets blocked. You have data from archaeology from all over the world that shows that our history of humanity is just fucking wrong. The history that we're given is not correct. The Sumerian writings, people always say these, with the manuscripts, the Christian manuscripts, there's so many of them and they're so close to the event. The Sumerian tablets are clay, baked clay, and they last forever. And we have thousands upon thousands of these things. And when you look at the comparative writings between these cultures and all their surrounding cultures, you can see how they all borrow from each other, if you look at this logically. The real question is, where did they get the concept for these stories? Now, as far as the afterlife goes, like I said, this doesn't appear to be benevolent. I've been going through this guy's website here, Wayne Bush. I've actually emailed him a few times. He talks about being how he comes up with a theory of tricked by the light, how we're in like some kind of prison system, reality trap, perhaps being fed on by some kind of spiritual parasites. If you look at the UFO studies of like Carla Turner, J.L. Hynek, and others, how they have come to the conclusion that spirituality is the motive, some kind of spiritual motive is the real motive behind UFOs. And some people have been able to resist abductions. If you look at some of Carla Turner's work, it's really amazing. And you have all this evidence and data. It has to all blend together somehow so you can get an accurate picture of what's going on. So there's something going on that really, I've been looking at this other guy, Doug Michael's work. And his videos are quite interesting. I've been reading some of the books that he refers to, and they're fascinating. I'm still processing. There's a lot to read. I have a website now. Let me go back to my channel here on YouTube. Let me show you something. Key. Up here in my header, I have my Twitter. You guys can follow me on Twitter if you like. And I have my own website, which is the OVRWATCHproject.com. It's just OVRWATCHproject.com. Then here's my trailer, a book of the month, which I recommend, Dean Radin's Supernormal. Under Mind Fuel, I did add this book from End All Be All. It's a philosophy for the average man. Everything in this book I agree with. I don't know if I'll agree with other writings this guy has, but this book about philosophy is spot on with the problems that we have today. Now, although he doesn't call it cognitive firmware, he calls it first cognition, I see it as biological firmware that we have in our brains that interfere and cripple our consciousness to the point where we can't reason in certain matters, and I think that's intentional. I think that is intentionally designed to block us from reasoning so we can stay in conflict. Conflict is necessary so that we don't get too powerful, so that we don't become free of whatever it is that's keeping us in the dark about reality. We also have these elites. You can call them, some people refer to them as the Illuminati, some people call them other names, but the cabals that run the earth, the government's highest of highs, the bankers and all that stuff. And maybe they don't know what's going on either. Maybe they do. I don't know. They definitely have a vested interest in keeping us all in the dark, and they definitely act in a manner that is very suspicious that they might know. Maybe it's something like in that movie The Matrix, the one guy that betrayed his friends. He made a deal with the people running the Matrix, the computer system or whatever that was running the Matrix in that movie. I'm not saying we live in a computer system per se. It's more like a spiritual trap. But, you know, he was on the inside, so he was an agent for them. Maybe these cabals are agents for whatever it wants to keep us in the dark. So I think I bounced enough all over the place today. I hope that you found my video somewhat interesting. And in that video about, I'll link to it, my old video about the Earth being in the center of the universe. You can check out those source links. That's what they're there for. And maybe come up to your own conclusions about what I'm showing you. All right, take care. See you guys next time. Check out my website for more, and have a great day or night whenever you're watching this. July 11th, 2016 now, and I'll see you next time. Bye.